Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness unto light, lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. Whenever we have spiritual gatherings like this, especially in India, after a spiritual retreat, there's always a question-answer session. And in the question-answer session, there'll always be one question which will be most common. And that is, I can't meditate, my mind doesn't settle down, my mind is distracted. So that question will always be there in every Q&A session on spiritual matters. And that is the subject for today's talk, Meditate Better. It actually comes out of something that Arjuna asks Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. In the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna asks this very question to Krishna. The 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is about meditation, Dhyana Yoga, the yoga of meditation. And after Krishna teaches this, in pretty good detail actually, Arjuna pops this question. He says that whatever you have taught, O Krishna, I don't think it's practical. He's a practical man. He's a warrior. And he's about to be engaged in some very nasty business of war. And philosophy, no matter how subtle, spiritual sentiments, no matter how noble, techniques, no matter how sophisticated, unless they work, unless they give results. He's very American that way, very pragmatic. He is not all that interested. He says that, O Krishna, this yoga that you have taught me, I don't see it working because the mind is fickle, the mind is it is subject to continuous change, ups and downs. So he asks this question: how do you settle the mind down? Otherwise, whatever you're teaching is not practical. By the way, what did he teach? The word yoga, just a little side note here, in America and most of the Western world, and now in India also, yoga. There's no such word in English, in Sanskrit or in an Indian language. There's no yoga. It is, the original Sanskrit word is yoga. And you don't have to go that far. People will look at you weirdly if you say yoga. But the correct pronunciation would be yoga, not a. Yoga. In Hindi, you would say yog. In Bengali, yog. But never yoga. So what is this yoga the spiritual path? Yoga is a spiritual path. What exactly did Krishna teach Arjuna? Before we dive into the subject, it's good to get some perspective of what Krishna was teaching. And this is, of course, I'm speaking entirely from the perspective of Advaita Vedanta, non-dual Vedanta. Krishna was not teaching the yoga of devotion to Arjuna. You see, these schools, meditation, devotion, of action, the ancient schools of Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Sankhya, Yoga, Purva Mimamsa, these are not Vedanta, these are not Advaita. In fact, these are what are called Purva Paksha for Advaita. A lot of effort is spent by the Advaita masters in cutting down the conclusions of these schools. The Nyaya school, it teaches devotion and surrender to God. That is not Advaita. Somebody trained in Indian philosophy might object at this point and say, where do you get that from the ancient school of Nyaya? We know the metaphysics and logic of Nyaya. Well, it is a devotional school because if you see the later dualistic Vedanta schools, Dvaita Vedanta, Shuddha-Dvaita Vedanta and others, which are devotional. If you open up the box and see how the workings inside, the machinery inside, the metaphysics and logic, they're all entirely borrowed from Nyaya. See, the dualistic schools, the theistic schools are Basically, the metaphysics and logic of Nyaya, Vaisheshika, with an overlay of theism, of devotion. So the Nyaya Vaisheshika school, which says God exists, and ultimately by surrender to God, by devotion to God, you will attain freedom. Not Advaita. We do not agree. The ancient school of yoga, by which I mean Patanjali yoga, it says that by the restraint of the modifications of the mind, hold the mind back, tie down the mind, so that by the calmness of the mind, absolute cessation of the movements of the mind, the separation of the self from material nature, you will see that in asampragyata samadhi, the deepest possible samadhi. See, what's wrong with that? Not Advaita Vedanta. No. Brahma Sutras, Shankaracharya clearly explains, Etena yoga pratyuktaha. By these arguments are set aside, the ancient school of yoga taught by Patanjali. Don't be disturbed by all this I'm saying. I'm going to take it all back very soon. But right now, let's see. Even Sankhya, the ancient school of Sankhya, which seems closest to Advaita Vedanta, what does it say? This vast world which you see, the material world, a mass of change, it's an object. And you are the witness thereof. You are pure consciousness, without limit. And you are unchanging. And this entire world is a material world, an object, and apart from you. Consciousness and matter are different. Purusha and Prakriti are different. This distinction, this discernment is the key to your liberation. Self, not self. I often talk about Drigdrishya Viveka, the discernment, the separation of the seer from the seen. You say, yeah, that seems like Advaita Vedanta. No, it isn't. Advaita Vedanta, in fact, they spend more time in cutting down the school of Sankhya rather than any other school. Because in some sense, it is the closest to Advaita. It's not Sankhya. It is not Purva Mimamsa. Advaita Vedanta is entirely based on the Vedas, on the Upanishadic portion of the Vedas. And yet, the previous portion of the Vedas, the ritualistic portion, where you perform good actions in this world and devout actions, and by the merit gained by these actions, we hope to gain a good life in this world and in the next world and in the next birth. Purva Mimamsa, the way of sacred action. Not Advaita. None of these are Advaita. These are what constitute the Purva Paksha, the opponent, those schools which are different from Advaita in their ultimate conclusions. And Advaita Vedanta sets them aside firmly. Then what is it? What is the yoga taught by Krishna to Arjuna? What does it say then? What is Advaita? And just before the question asked by Arjuna, Krishna had taught the climax of this path he is teaching Arjuna, and he says, Sarvabhutastham atmanam sarvabhutani chatmani ikshate yoga yuktatma sarvatra samadarshana. You see, the self in all beings, in everything in the world you see yourself. And all things in this world, the entire universe, you see in yourself. You in everything else and everything else in you. And the one who is centered in yoga, the one who is established in yoga, sees this same radiant divinity everywhere. Sarvatra samadarshana. Not as a sentiment that everything is God. No. Sees. Ikshate. Sees. Sees with the eye of wisdom. Not with these eyes. These eyes reveal difference. You are all different from me. Different from each other. You are all sentient beings, and is sitting on the chair which is different from you, and sentient, insentient. And there are millions of entities around the world. The differences are revealed by these eyes. The eye of wisdom, the eye of non-dual wisdom, reveals one radiant divinity as a matter of, I can say, roughly experience. This is deeper than experience. As Sri Ramakrishna said to the young Naren, Vivekananda, who came to him, do you see God? And he says, yes, as I see you, only more clearly. What is that only more clearly? Does Sri Ramakrishna need glasses? No. By the eye of wisdom, you see something deeper, which makes all experience possible. You see, consciousness It is more evident than anything revealed by consciousness.